John Moss has gone home ill, but he'll be watching it, and we wish him a speedy recovery. We will.
Glad he didn't hand it around to hand it to us, too.
Yeah, well, that's what he said. He said he didn't want. He said he didn't want to bring it here. So we're going to get started with the lifeguard contract. Chief Ed Brazel, want to go through that with us?
Yes, sir.
Please.
Mayor, members, of council, Mr. Hanson, it's January, it's sunny, so let's talk about lifeguards.
That's right.
Why am I here today? Well, we have as you know, we have a contracted lifeguard service providing services down at the resort, and we're getting ready to go into our last season of that contract. And it's a lengthy process to go through the update cycle, and you need a long lead time for anybody that wants to get involved down at the beach to plan, prepare, and quite frankly, we're down now. Started our hiring process for our lifeguards in Sandbridge to hit the beach in May. So it's a long lead time, and we're starting out early. What we want to talk about is just a quick review of the existing contract, and then give you a quick update on our plan of attack here. It's primarily resort, but that also includes the Croatan beaches, 57th Street, North End patrols, and the surfing areas. Throughout the year, we start in May, kind of a small presence, ramp that up, and then once we hit to Memorial Day through Labor Day, that's when we're at the peak staffing, covering all those beach areas, all the way from 9:30 in the morning until sunset. Then after Labor Day, we start scaling back down at the resort. We're not doing any of the outlying areas, just the resort, and that goes about 2 weeks after Labor Day to patrols up to about Neptune Festival. That's where we're at. This contract, it's a big contract, about $1.5 million a year. Last time it was a 4-year term with 3 1-year renewals. I've been involved in this process for 3 contracts, and each time we evolve. First one I did in '98 was when we started expand stands in Croatan. In 2005, if you remember, we used to have the rental franchises and the guards. It was linked. We separated that. And then in subsequent years, we've talked more and more. We've expanded into our shoulder season and also an early morning presence. Some people do go to the beach before 9:30, so having a couple trained guards down there at the office to be able to run out to the beach in an emergency. So we built those things in. And using those lessons learned out of this contract, we will be looking at what do we do. Is there services that we're not getting that we want to add in a future one? Big discussion that's going on is been more shoulder season coverage, more patrols, maybe changing those hours. Nothing definite yet, but we're not seeing any major changes like adding 10 more blocks of guarding, but we will be tweaking the services. Talking about, if you remember the last cycle, 2012, there was some wrestling about whether or not to do this a public versus private operation. It's council's direction 2012 to utilize the contract. Virginia Beach Life Saving Service has a significant tradition and experience and have done, and we expect a great job again in this summer. The city, we continue to operate our lifeguard service down in Sandbridge, and we've done this since 2010. Now, I'm not here to talk pros, cons of either approach, just that was the facts of the last process. Going in, though, for the renewal, what our plan is. We're getting together with purchasing. What do we want for 2019 and beyond? And we'll be issuing that RFP in June. So through the summer, that'll be worked on. We will prepare best governmental estimate, just so we feel it's prudent, so we can see what's an economical value that we can expect. But once the RFP is closed, purchasing will then go review it, get in the negotiation phase. There'll be a lot of players involved in that, with the goal of awarding the contract in November. What that does is gives, again, that long lead time to prepare for this 2019 season. Also dovetails nicely with the city manager's budget process, so that we can come in and say, this is the cost for the next cycle, and then hopefully avoid anything other than maybe one out-year cycle appropriation for the June payment in 19, but otherwise we can put it on a cycle. So that's just a quick thumbnail. The plan, again, we're going to go out for RFP starting in June and be set for 2019.
Very good. Any questions or comments? We thank you very much. I think I do speak for the council. Both the city and the private have done a very good job over the years, and we thank you for that.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we go into the next thing.
Yes,
David
sir.
Municipal Wharf.
Yes, sir. So we're going to rotate a team in here, and we As you know, in our discussions for this current budget that we're in, we experienced a major bulkhead failure on our marina in Lynn Haven. We created a CIP to get that done, and we are trying to move forward with that. And so our coastal engineer, Phil Roars, you've grabbed the podium, so.
Bill, we're glad to have
Very
you.
good. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. This is an informational brief. Several of you will remember some past activity on this site, but we have a proposed action that's likely going to create some public input, so we wanted to give you an advance warning and to give you some background on the issue. And the topic is the Lesnar Municipal Wharf, is what we're calling it. It's the new wharf facility that was built with the bridge to facilitate the bridge construction. What I wanted to do is give you a little history on both the site and the proposal and what we're planning to do. Originally, we bought this property in 1972 as part of our conditions of the Corps of Engineers dredging Lynn Haven Inlet. We used it for about 20, 30 years to stockpile the sand there, and then periodically hauled it to the ocean front as beach replenishment. Once we did Operation Big Beach, we abandoned that system of hauling that sand, and we started putting the sand directly on Cape Henry and Ocean Park Beach. And we were able to get the Corps of Engineers to release an easement that they had held over the entire site. And that let us build the Lynn Haven Boat Ramp and Beach Use Facility on the northern third of the site back in 2002. It does remain still an active dredge material placement area. We use it for our Crab Creek and Long Creek dredging projects, and as a result, that sand that's placed on there is a very vital piece of stockpiled beach quality sand for emergencies that arise. We've used it both on Cape Henry Beach and at Ocean Park Beach. And it turned out as a site to be very beneficial for the bridge project. We had proposed to build a wharf on this site, and it was fairly strongly opposed. The opposition was more related to the neighborhood dredging program. The folks that live near the facility, if I can characterize their opposition, I hope somewhat accurately, they felt that having dredge material brought from other neighborhoods to this facility then hauled out was an impact on them that shouldn't be allowed. So we backed away from that concept. However, when we built the bridge, the wharf was necessitated. It was needed to load heavy items and to bring in the segments that are part of the bridge. But because of the opposition, while we were trying to get this permitted, we had to accept a condition of that wharf being temporary. That was not our intention. We stated at the time that we wanted to pursue keeping it as a permanent facility. But nevertheless, to keep the bridge project on schedule, we accepted that condition of this wharf being temporary. Now we're going to propose to convert it to permanent, and that's where we might get some opposition, and we wanted you to know about it before we did it. Just a few photos of it being built. It is in what we call a relieving platform or a wharf. It is a structural, very competent structural device where you can sit a crane right next to the water's edge and you can lift one of these pier segments for the bridge, or segments for the bridge. They're quite heavy. So you can see it's a steel sheet pile wall, concrete cap. It's tied back. It's got a rear wall back there, a cutoff wall, reinforced concrete. It's quite the facility. We think it's incredibly valuable to the city. Some of the uses and benefits that we foresee or that are actually already occurring, and that would be landing and staging for the federal inlet dredging contract. Every 4 years, we have a major, large hydraulic dredge come visit Lynn Haven Inlet and spend a month there. Heretofore, crew changes had to be done by beaching craft and having men jump on and off. There was no place to actually moor the dredge. We also have periodic visits by the Corps-owned dredge Currituck, and right now we're having to moor that ship at Chicks when she's in the inlet because there's no facility. But this wharf would facilitate a mooring place. Also, as we continue to dredge Long Creek and Crab Creek, What we have been doing is beaching the barges that have the dredged material on it and then transferring the dredged material, the sand, up on the sand stockpile from a beached barge. This wharf will allow us to do that much more efficiently, much more environmentally sound. Just to continue, it has potential use for research and survey vessels. We've had some discussions, very preliminary, but on occasion, our neighbors at the Brock Center have larger boats come in, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. This might serve that purpose. Here it's shown being used already for oyster reef creation. So it's an ideal place to bring in bulk material like that. Lastly, though, is we don't want to lose the option or the ability to use it as a dredge material transfer station for our neighborhood dredging program. And just a blast from the past, oops, this drawing slowly. There you go. This was what we called our bubble chart back during the beginning days of the neighborhood dredging program. Because we're doing mechanical dredging now, because we don't have hydraulic placement sites for these interior projects, we need a place to do mechanical dredge material transfer. We've already built the one at Thalia. We currently have our permits pending for one at London Bridge. This site had been identified, the site of the Lesner Municipal Wharf had been identified long ago as our Crab Creek alternative. And the point I want to make here is we had said, and so far we're holding true, these dredge material transfer areas, one of the concerns of the citizens was that every bit of dredging that takes place in the city is going to come right through my backyard, and that's not the case. We have service area, defined service areas. We've stuck to our guns on the Thalia Road site. We're not letting the Eastern Branch projects come all the way around and use it. And similarly, we won't allow an Eastern Branch project or a Western Branch project way down south to come up and use this facility. We have a defined service area. So the number of projects that might take place is rather small. Bayville Creek, Thorogood, a handful of others would be the site or the projects potentially that would use the site for neighborhood dredge material transfer. So again, the attributes are obvious. I'm repeating myself, but we think it's a very valuable piece of public marine infrastructure. It was designed by necessity as a permanent structure. There's this type of structure can't be chinsed on. It needed to have full depth steel sheets, reinforced concrete cap in order to be serviced. So it serves as a permanent feature if we're able to win this request. Again, there's multiple uses and benefits, and there has been a significant public investment. I'll touch on cost here. The wharf as it sits today costs a little over $1.1 million to build. As a temporary structure in the contract, we have a line item for its removal. So $32,000 is what's currently in the contract to remove this. Now, there's salvage value in the steel sheets. We think the contractor will probably ask for that salvage value. It'll be a negotiated amount. This is an estimated amount here. But the point I'm trying to make is we've already spent $1.1 million. So the cost to abandon and remove it is almost 1.2, and the cost to keep it is about 1.3. So we think it's there, it's serving a purpose, it makes economic sense to try to keep it. So our intention is to write the regulatory agencies and ask them to change that condition from temporary to permanent. Now, there are very few environmental reasons why they would deny it. But they do listen to the public. The public has the right to voice. They listen to what they say. So, and you all may very well get some phone calls. So we wanted to let you know it was happening, that we're about ready to do this, and give you the background as why we think it's the right thing to do. That's all I have. I just wanted to give you as I said, the update that we're planning to pull this trigger, and it may very well cause some public input.
Okay, Jim Wood, this is in Lewis too. Oh, it's in Lewis district?
My district.
Okay, I know it's
Smile when
borderline.
he said that.
All right, are you okay with this recommendation?
Yeah, it makes sense what they're asking, I think.
All right. Very good.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we will just add on, we just had a discussion on the city marina, and that's my confusing, talking about a failed bulkhead. too many marinas today, and bulkheads. One of the things that our engineers have noticed and that I think Phil would comment on is that we've kind of stabilized the sand flow in there, and it's been to our advantage for navigation and the critical importance that it provides keeping Crab Creek open, which is our access to our Lynn Haven boat launch for our trailered boats, boaters and fishermen is critically important, and having that asset there will be significant. As we look forward to implementing the shore protection initiative, where we mine the sand off of the bay beaches. Remember the study we did with VIMS for Chicks Beach? And we are going to move forward with that first ever recycling of sand 150 to 300 yards offshore, smaller dredges, being able to pump it up on that most needed beach at Chesapeake Beach. We're going to want to be able to put those commercial vessels out of harm's way to be able to tie off on that kind of wharf. And there's really no other place that we have inside that. They'd have to go all the way back to the Norfolk Harbor, and those would increase our costs tremendously when we're trying to really cut our costs to create shore protection. So there's a lot of added benefit for maintaining this wharf. And we're excited to get on with what we got to do to get it done.
Okay, let's go to the master technology plan. This looks pretty interesting and lengthy, so we have Peter Wallace, Director of Information Technology. We welcome you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, council members, city manager, and staff. Appreciate the opportunity here to present to you today. So, as we all know, technology is evolution, and every 3 months is like a year in technology. So we want to make sure that we come to you often and provide an update to you as we look at a plan to meet the digital demands of the, oh, so I got my clicker, okay, cool. All right, so let's move on to our first slide here. In the fall of 2012, IT came to council and provided engaged Gartner in a research firm and providing our first strategic plan. I'm here to tell you that that plan works completed in March of 2014, and it was published and adapted, so we're working from that goal currently. The 5-year plan continued to guide our strategic, helping the department and the city navigate through these digital times. So what I'd like to talk about now is that we have learned a lot from Gartner and their first engagement. Matter of fact, we learned so much. I want to present the team to you that is going to be helping doing the technology plan 2.0. And I'll start with Eric Feeney. Let's raise your hand, sir. Everybody know who you are, Eric. And Eric Syverson, and Dwayne Bass, and Abigail serving as our business analyst on this endeavor.
We're glad to have all of y'all over here today.
So they are obviously going to be helping us do a much lower cost plan because it's going to be internal. So while we have learned a lot from Gartner, we're going to take the same principle from Gartner and apply it to the plan. So good, much cheaper going forward. Now, this slide here tells the story. If you don't plan, and even when you do plan, you can still miss the mark. So we got to make sure that this roadmap outlines how technology will be used to support the city council goals as well as the business performance of it. So this is kind of where we are today to tell you as the foundation from that plan. We're going to take from the first master plan, and it's all about execution. And we're going to do it. We cannot innovate with legacy systems. And we're still, from the first plan, battling the legacy systems currently. So the whole goal is to reduce complexity across the city and provide leverage technology that we know can embrace us into the digital world. So we're going to partner with our business, build relationship, and focus on those guiding principles that we see here. Now, the foundation pillar of the master plan is transformation, to build a better business solution, and also strengthen our governance and improving infrastructure and operation side of which, as I continue, we kind of about some of the things we already established in this plan. So back in the spring of 2018, we're going to be entering into, or in the spring coming 2018, we're going to enter a 5 years initiative of, the original plan had 32 initiatives as they're listed there. I'm happy to say after 3 years, we are at 69% complete. That means that 22 of the 32 strategies have been met already. And as we're looking at this year, at next year about this time, 94% will be completed. So we are moving rapidly along these goals as we have gotten from 4 years ago to fruition today. And we're going to continue to make progress as we go along. But let's talk about some of the wins with what we've accomplished so far from that first plan. Once again, the beach was recognized as the best place to live. Digital City Awards from population of 250 to 500,000. Number one, 2 years in a row. Suffice to say, we're going to make it repeat. We already start bragging. I'm already have a bullseye on my back from all my peers, but I think that we're up to the challenge and we're going to make it work. We also cannot leave without talking about how we have become not only the best city in the world, but also we have now global connection. That proves that reality as well. We have some of the fastest regional broadband capacity in the world right in our shores. So we got to keep taking advantage of that. We've also used the next generation network to build the city infrastructure. And on top of that, we've also started using data analytics to look at what we have, to define what we have in the ground, as well as from public safety to human services, to build the case to serve our citizens much better than what we've done in the past. We've also incorporated the sheriff's office into the enterprise strategy as well. We have successfully migrated a few legacy applications already, and we have a lot more that we have to upgrade over the next several years to bring up to speed. But so far, that relationship is going well, and we continue to serve the other public safety agencies as well. So we have here, since the last time, we have new leadership, and you can see that we have new vision and also direction, priorities, and so on. So this has all changed since the last time the IT came to you about this technology plan. So the 2.0 initiative.
They're retired. Got a problem with that.
Do you have?
No, I just, never mind.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
So right now we're deep in the information gathering stage, working with our customers, department directors, as well as deputy city managers. And this next slide here will kind of give you a high-level view of our approach to this project. We have identified the objective and measurable outcomes. So I don't want to undermine some of those needs as the business demand. Then where is that IT direction? Look at our gap and what are we capable of doing? Because we have to move as an enterprise. We cannot operate in silos. To make it work, we need to operate as enterprise, develop our strategy and our roadmap. And so we're basing that on a 3 to 5 year plan, 3 to 5 year plan. Overall, this is the timeline that's driving us. And by the end of, right now, like I said, we're doing the assessments and we gather information and we be ready to work with the work with the city manager also, and in the fall, we're able to publish where we are to get into our next Mass Technology Plan 2.0. So one of the things that I found also working with the strategic goal team is that technology is persuasive. It's everywhere. It's in every goal team that at least have an objective. So we're trying to gather all that as well to make sure that we don't miss anything, to make sure that we have a holistic view of technology regardless of whatever goal team that's tied to. And we're here to help drive those initiatives as well. Let's take a look at the future. You have all heard about artificial intelligence, Internet of Everything. So everything is a sensor, your refrigerator, your TV, everything is watching you while you watch them. So, you know, we've got to be ready for that as well. As a city that's going to be in the front of leading the digital divide, we have to make sure that we provide different platforms that people could take advantage of. So as we look at that table, we recognize that we need to also keep moving forward with our innovation. I know I have a Google Assistant at home as well. I also have Alexa. I have them both to try and see how they work. But currently, we're also doing that with the city. We're going to integrate that into bulk trash pickup, permits, parking. Imagine your shopping experience on Amazon. This is what we want the citizens to have as a one-stop portal. So that's our goal, is to incorporate all the services that we do to make sure that when you come to the city site, everything is there, okay? And you have the same experience as you would, hopefully a good one, Amazon, like I normally have when I go there, as well as being secure. Sea level rise, I know that's a big thing for us here. I just want to say that we won a challenge from Amazon as for our Storm Sense project that we did. And we're going to take that and help build a mobile app as well. So rather than only showing you when the sea level rise are in a certain flooding areas coming, we can now give you a mobile app that before you even go down that road, you know not to go because of the water level is too high. So those kind of things that we're going to be doing next with artificial intelligence and data that we're going to take to make sure that we use that to our advantage. Now, with shared data, the city will be able to use predictive analytics. That means we can actually make informed decisions, not just thinking about what if, but we use that what if to create a real business case to show the real numbers behind our decision. It would be good for council, good for city manager, good for staff, and for our citizens because it's going to be open data portal as well. So that's the kind of stuff that we're looking at to engage our citizens as much as we can. Again, imagine parking space before you leave to go to the ocean front, maybe in the summer, with all the event going on. How about knowing how many parking spaces available before you head down to the ocean front, before you even leave your home? All right, that's the kind of stuff we're thinking about doing so that you have those things at your fingertips. It's good for tourism. If you are a tourist here on the weekend and we want to get information to you that there's an event happening, that you may want to stay another day, another hotel, where here's the hotel information, you can book a room, all those things we're working with to make sure that we have a holistic view, again, of making our city the greatest city to work and to play and to live. And that's where we are today. I want to give you a brief update and here for any questions that you may have.
Very good. Thank you for the presentation. Questions? Ben?
I just want to make a quick comment and commend Peter and his team. Virginia Beach leads the regional technology initiative, but we are also recognized nationally as the gold standard for our technology offerings, and that's due in large part to the hard work of Peter and his team. And Peter, we're counting on a three-peat.
Oh yeah, we're going for it.
All right.
Any other questions or comments? I just sit back and say to you, I'm glad you all are doing this. No, and I say it as honestly as I can say it, though. I mean, because this is so important to our future. And frankly, you know, we need talented people like you to put this together. So, I mean, wouldn't it be great to be living in Kempsville and, hey, I want to go to the 24th Street stage, what's the parking situation?
Exactly.
And that day, I believe, is very, very close to us, to be honest with you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sir, I would just, there's the dependency on technology, that autonomous vehicle initiative that you all are very interested in seeing that evolve. With the investment in the next generation network, this team had a first master technology plan goal to come off T1 cables and go to 1 gig fiber-connected government facilities. We had a total of 60 facilities on that. They have got 58 lit up today. They are finally getting the connections to the last two of transferring that. Their most recent calculation of dollar savings on an annual basis, based on the savings we have not paying for T1 and the cost increase it would take to provide a gigabyte of capacity to our libraries and our rec centers and our police precincts, is over $2 million saved per year.
2.2.
And so when
Told you it was a good idea.
when Jim Spoor, in the middle of the recession, when Jim Spoor, we brought this to Jim Spoor and we said, look, Jim, we know we're in a recession. We have an opportunity to figure out a way to put money into technology and continue to grow our technology footprint during that period when other things were tightening, and we know how difficult it was. We were all here at the table. He had faith in this group, and he put $4.5 million into this next generation network. And because of that, the realization in having fiber in the ground now provides that backhaul capability for us to endear ourselves and to look forward to the Wi-Fi network that we want to pursue, because all that gets backhaul. And without all that basic infrastructure going in over this period of time and getting in there, we would not be in a position that we are today. Not to mention the fact that pushing that fiber to the outskirts of the Va Beach Bio park that we are about to break ground on and move forward in 2018 on, we wouldn't have the bandwidth capacity that broadband provides to be able to move forward with that accelerator effort that you all have decided is the fourth leg of our economic development. So
Very
I just
good.
want to share that with you all. It's a big deal.
We thank you very much.
Or recommended that without ever knowing how to turn on a computer. That's pretty
I tell you,
amazing.
man was just
He
amazing.
trusted us. He trusted, and you all passed the budget to do it. So it's
Okay,
a big
folks, I
deal.
bet you we can be out of here by 5 if we keep on track here. Interim financial statements, Patty Phillips. Here comes Patty and her team. Patty, we welcome you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council. We're here to present the interim financial statements through December, roughly 6 months into the year, although it's not 6 months' worth of revenue so far. You all should have gotten this package in your Friday package, and we'll just kind of quickly walk through some of the highlights. I did want to recognize Kevin Kilbasa, who's manning the computers, Don Barnett, the city's controller, and Miriam Woodson, the principal accountant, who had a,
We thank all of y'all for being over here.
we're just going to go over for the 6 months general fund revenue, expenditures, and next steps. And this chart, if you just looked only at this, this tells the story of the general fund. Talks about we have a revenue budget of $1,129.8 million, and we've collected $485.4 million. We've had the first half of real estate tax, but not much other major taxes, and we'll walk in through that. Expenditures budget of $1,195.7 million, and we've spent $605.9 million, which is pretty much on target. So down here at the bottom, we show where some of the expenditure budget comes from prior year fund balances, just to avoid the confusion, why the expenditures and revenue budget are not the same, because part of it comes from fund balance. 485.4 million collected, 43% of the budget, 50% of the year passed. And as we know, towards the end of the year, we start getting a lot of revenues, and that, creates some risk because we don't know if we're going to collect those or not. Real estate revenue year-to-date is up 24.7 million. Personal property up $1.5 million. Federal revenue up primarily because we got some FEMA money. Citywide revenue was $294.6 million for real estate. The general fund got $271.7 million of that. Business licenses due in March, which is also a great indicator of our local economy. Personal property, $102 million, not due till June. And of course, the second half of the real estate due in June as well. This chart is a little bit busy, but basically you see that through the current year, we've collected, compared to the prior year, you'll see how much more primary tax rate went up, assessments went up, and so the revenue went up. We have a $521.9 million real estate budget. We've collected $271. Personal property, $102.5 million budget for the current year. We've only collected 20. We only collect a little bit of proration, a little delinquents. We really don't know where we're going to end up there. General sales tax is doing well, 27.9 million collected compared to the prior year, so we're up maybe a percent and something. So that's a good signal, up 1.9% from the prior year. Hotel room taxes doing very well. That's are up about 10% compared to the prior year, a little over 10%. In this chart, you'll see how we break down the hotel taxes amongst the various funds. Restaurant meal taxes also up from the prior by about 1%, 1.1. So we're doing well there. This is just a summary of key revenues. I highlighted the green. Real estate are up. Personal property is a little bit up. Federal revenue's up. Everything else is pretty much where it needs to be. Other charges for human services and so forth is down primarily because they haven't spent the money. It's a reimbursement basis. And also in the prior year, they had a one-time revenue, so the comparison is not apples to apples. Expenditures. We've spent $605.9 million. Compared to last year, we've spent $34.4 million more. This is the busy chart. Here we are, right here, through December. Revenues are ahead of schedule. Expenditures are below our trend line, so we're where we need to be. But as I said earlier, because we can't do this, this is where the last 2 months of the year, we get a lot of revenue that we don't even know yet what the assessments are going to be, personal property. Hence, a good fund balance. We'll be here in 4 weeks to do this again. You'll get your proposed budget for fiscal 19 on March, and of course the budget in May. So be happy to entertain any questions if I can.
Thank you very much. Questions or comments? Go right ahead, please.
With the new tax law, did much money come in that would have been due in June, come in by the end of the year?
We haven't seen any significant amount, but I know there were some. I happen to know a few people who paid in advance.
Yeah.
No names mentioned.
I've got, and I know you don't have this, but if you could provide it, and I hate to ask you to do this, but last week we were talking about the tip.
Right.
And as you know, I've just looked at our real estate tax, our restaurant taxes at 5.5.
Right.
I believe our neighboring cities now, for a number of years, have been 6.5, 7.5. Is that correct? That's what I'm asking for verification.
We'll verify all that.
What? I think there's one that's even 2 points more in the region. And I recently I said I'd like to have that because if you recall, when we did the 5.5, that was one of the highest in the region a number of years ago. I think this also reiterates the importance of tourism because of the volume that comes in, that we've been able to maintain 5.5 versus 6.5 and perhaps 7.5, I believe in some other cities in our region. I'd love to have that if you don't mind. And I thank you for it.
Well, glad to get it. Okay.
Richmond's talking
Love
about
that tip
raising
fund.
theirs.
Huh?
Talking about raising theirs.
All right. Planning at a glimpse. I think there's.
Thanks,
one that's
Patty.
7.5%, I believe. Hey.
Don't think they believed we'd be this fast,
Yeah.
but I am glad that the Congress moved to stand up the government again. It's always a good thing to have a government. Just thought I'd say that.
Mr. Mayor, I guess I can go.
Oh,
ahead and
yeah,
announce
John's
it.
got something,
We're waiting on.
Yeah, that'd be
that's very
great.
important.
If I could, the mayor and I had the opportunity to meet with Senator Kane, and a lot of stakeholders, in the city, last week, talking about offshore drilling. And so, out of that came a recommendation that we reiterate our position in terms of being in opposition to it. And in addition to that, to ask for the same protections that Florida has received in terms of being taken off of the table for offshore drilling and exploration. So this is a ordinance that I've drafted. I'm going to pass that around if I could, and would like to introduce that at our next voting meeting in early February. We'd love to have additional co-sponsors if anybody is interested. I will say, while we just have a
You
few
can put my
minutes-
name on there with you.
Mr. Mayor, I'm delighted to do that. One of the things that did come out of that is that now that Florida has been taken off of the table, we certainly understand that Florida has been, really jockeying to take some of our military assets to Florida, most notably a carrier, which is $1 billion a year loss in terms of its impact to our economy. If for some reason offshore drilling were allowed off the coast of Virginia but not allowed off the coast of Florida, I would certainly expect that the Florida delegation would use that fact to try and advocate for moving to Florida where their training operations would not in any way be inhibited by firing live ordnance around a potential oil rig. So, it was important before, but now I think it's even more important because if we were to have offshore drilling off our coast, it could very easily put us at a competitive disadvantage to protect our military assets. Thank you, Mr.
Great,
Mayor.
thank you, and,
And me too. All right.
Me too.
All right. I know you.
all right. Council, Carolyn, you're up.
Oh, thank you.
We're glad to have you.
Darling, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have 7 planning items scheduled for you on February 6th. And we are actually giving you a reprieve. We've put all of the January planning commission items on this first meeting, so you won't be voting on any planning commission items on the 20th. So 7 items are all recommended for approval by both the staff as well as by the planning commission. We have 4 in the Beach District, and then 1 in the Kempsville, the Rose Hall, and the Princess Anne District. Sorry, I ran over here. I'm out of breath. Item 1 is a request for a conditional use permit for a tattoo parlor. The applicant operates a massage studio on this site off of First Colonial Road, and she proposes to offer microblading services to her clients. There are no changes proposed to the exterior of the building or to the signage, and staff is not aware of any opposition to this
What's
request.
our status of getting we're getting to be, going to be known as the tattoo capital of the world by what we
I
have
realize that.
With our zonings. I mean, I thought we were going to fix that,
So our city attorney's office has advised us that we cannot separate out tattoo parlors from microblading facilities, so they all have to be lumped in as tattoo parlors.
City attorney does it every time.
It's always good to blame it on somebody else.
He often makes those decisions.
Great job, Mr. City Attorney.
Item number 2, it is the intent of this applicant to demolish an existing dilapidated single-family home on this structure and redevelop the site with a new dwelling. Upon the applicant's request for a building permit for those construction activities, it was discovered that this site was never legally platted. A deed, interestingly enough, was created and signed in 1949, but it was not recorded until 1964. And by 1964, subdivision of properties required that a plat be recorded. So based on this, a subdivision variance to both lot area and lot width is requested. So the proposed parcel will be deficient in the minimum 10,000 square feet of lot area by about 2,700 square feet, and also deficient in the 80 feet of lot width that's required by about 30 feet. There was one speaker in opposition at the Planning Commission hearing. He is the adjacent property owner to the south. He requested that a fence be installed along their shared property line, and he also had some environmental concerns. The Planning Commission did vote 11-0 to recommend approval without an additional condition for the fence. This applicant is proposing to reconfigure these two lots from an east-west orientation to a north-south orientation. These two legally non-conforming lots do not meet the current regulations with regard to direct access to a public street or to lot width. So based on this, any reconfiguration of these parcels does require a subdivision variance to these standards. This request would not increase the residential density along this private lane, and it is consistent with several subdivision variances that have been approved along Riddick Lane. There was one speaker in opposition. She lives to the west in Courthouse Estates. She has concerns about decreased privacy with the removal of some of the trees to build these homes. And she also has an opinion that the proposed homes will be out of character with the area. The Planning Commission did recommend to vote favorably 11-0 on that one as well. In 1972, the City Council granted a conditional use permit on this property for the development of an 8-unit apartment building. At that time, there was one single-family dwelling on the site, and it was zoned R3 residential district. Consistent with the regulations in 1972, the conditional use permit permitted the single family to remain and the 8 units in the apartment building to be constructed. Now the property owner proposes to modify both of these structures, so a modification to the conditional use permit is requested. The modification includes the reduction of 1 unit in the apartment building, so it's going from 8 units down to 7, the conversion of the single-family dwelling to a duplex, and the addition of a second-story deck on that renovated duplex. No additional density is proposed. It's really just a slight reconfiguration of those existing 9 units on that property, and staff is not aware of any opposition. Item 5 is a request to rezone this site from B2 Community Business District to conditional A24 Apartment District. This almost 11-acre site is near the intersection of Witch Duck Road and Virginia Beach Boulevard, and it's owned by the school board. Economic Development did market this site for a commercial use under the existing B2 zoning. However, due to the limited frontage and access along Witch Duck Road, that effort was not successful. So this is a request for a 240-unit mixed-income apartment complex within 6 buildings. They will be applying for tax credits. The proffered elevations depict contemporary buildings that have similar architectural style and architectural elements that will complement the Renaissance Academy that's on the property immediately to the south. Proposed amenities include a clubhouse with a swimming pool, a dog park, and also a tot lot. And staff is not aware of any controversy or opposition
I had a
to that request.
quick question. Do
Sure.
we know what the capacity of Witch Duck will be once the road improvements are done?
I have that in my staff report, so I can get that to
Okay,
you. I
great.
don't know that off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
I appreciate it.
Sure. Okay. So that leads us to item number 6, which is a request for a conditional use permit for motor vehicle sales on this property in the Beach District along Virginia Beach Boulevard. Most of the applicant's business will be conducted online. However, per the Virginia Department of Motor Vehicles, he must have the ability to display at least 10 vehicles on this site. So this request specifically limits the number of vehicles to 10. The display area will be the area that's outlined in blue on the screen. The 1,200 square foot office building is located on the rear of this 9,600 square foot building. The majority of that building will remain as a laundromat. The proposed plantings and fence will bring this site more into compliance with current standards. The site is located in the greater than 75 noise zone, the accident potential zone 1, and there is an auto sales operation immediately adjacent to the east, and staff is not aware of any opposition. This final item is a request of Lynn Haven Mall. They are currently implementing a new and updated branding strategy. As part of this effort, they propose to replace the freestanding signs associated with the mall. The proposal includes the replacement of the primary identification signs and the 2 secondary multi-tenant signs along Lynn Haven Parkway, and also the replacement of 2 secondary identification signs along Lynn Haven Road, and staff is not aware of any opposition. So that's it for February 6th.
Any questions or comments? Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. All right, council, I appreciate everyone's time. Anybody got anything else? We will adjourn, and I'll see you soon.